Good morning. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. Karoline Leavitt, the superstar, the press secretary at the White House, to give a press briefing in the James S. Brady briefing room. That will be at 1 o'clock Eastern. So stick with us for that special occasion and for all updates now on Thursday, January 15th, and 15 days into the new year. And it has been a non-stop ride. Winning happening with lower inflation and an economy that is booming. And as Secretary Bessent has said, just buckle up and wait for the rest of 2026, as he is very busy with the potential fraud and the snap wiring from Minneapolis, Minnesota to East Africa and Somalia. $19 billion that we know of thus far. Let's see what else the feds uncover in that process. We had a very special guest join us just recently, United States Senator Tommy Tuberville, to speak on numerous different issues, including the potential SCOTUS ruling when it comes to transgender athletics. Also, his speeches on the Senate floor, to some of his thoughts coming up with the national championship for college football on Monday. Here's that interview. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Senator Tommy Tuberville from the Yellowhammer State of Alabama, and now officially a candidate for governor. Thank you for joining us, Senator. I found it so funny in the oral arguments about, is this a man? Is this a woman? I thought biological science has decided this, but you joined Riley Gaines and some fellow congressmen and congresswomen out there defending the dignity of these women who've been through so much, especially these college athletes who have had to put up with so much garbage inside and outside of their locker rooms.
Yeah, we've got so many problems in our country and around the world, and we're worried about how to define a man and a woman. It makes no sense to me. For 5 years that I've been on the Hill as a senator, I've had 3 bills on the Senate floor. I've not got one Democrat to vote for it. And I've asked women, especially the women that are senators, don't you have daughters and granddaughters? I mean, do you want them dressing in the same dressing rooms and having showers with other boys? And of course, they have no answer for that. All they try to do is they try to dance around it like they do everything else up here. That doesn't make sense. But this is one that just, I mean, it's to me, it's a form of mental illness. If you can't figure out whether you're a man or a woman, or if you want to compete against women and you're a man and have an unfair advantage, something's got to be wrong with you.
And that's my question, Senator, because I'm looking at all of this and thinking that this is an issue that's not Republican or Democrat. This is an issue about protecting women's rights truly in public and private affairs. And do the Democrats on the Hill, do your colleagues actually see this as an electoral advantage? Because people joke around with common sense that it's an 80-20 issue, but really it's 90-10. I mean, it just doesn't seem like anyone that has children who are daughters that would be wanting to back this up.
Yeah. I think people now are starting to realize what, as Republicans and as people that love this country, United States of America, what we deal with up here all the time. I mean, if you can't distinguish between a man and a woman, they try to convince people, by the way, that men can have babies. I mean, it can't get any more stupid than that. And so we fight a lot of battles up here, a lot of them about money and a lot of them about, funding and health care and the border and all that. But sometimes you can look at it and go, well, that's just their opinion. There shouldn't even be an opinion here because it's about good versus evil, and it's about right and wrong. And if you can't distinguish between right and wrong, when men, it is unfair to play against women sports and take away advantages and scholarships and playing time and destroy a team atmosphere, there's something wrong with you.
And it's absolutely as well a security issue and a safety issue, as we saw with the volleyball situation, that high schooler who lost her eyesight as a result of having a ball slapped directly at her from a biological man. So we'll keep diving into this, and I think it should be a 9-0 Supreme Court decision come June, but we might see, based on the Biden appointment of Ketanji Brown Jackson, that it might go 8-1, but we'll see there as the summer comes. You also took to the Senate floor to declare that the enemy is now inside the gates when it comes to radical Islam and the absolute insanity of New York Governor Kathy Hochul lighting up the World Trade Center in all of New York City after the inauguration of Mayor Mamdani for solidarity with Islamism. Can you dive into that statement and these statements you made on the Senate floor? Because I think it brings a lot to the light that people might not be aware of when it comes to radical Islamic terrorism.
Well, you should learn by example. Okay. I was a football coach, and if somebody had a very good play that worked, obviously we put it in. We try to make it work. Same thing with defense. And you learn by experience and by example. Folks, we need to look at what's happened to Europe. Our allies across the big pond have allowed immigration for the last 10, 15 years, mass immigration, into most of the countries, Italy, France, Germany, the UK, and a lot of others. And they've just allowed it to say, oh, yeah, we're going to accept everybody to come in. And most of them are Muslim. And listen, I got nothing against Muslims, and if they want to come here and assimilate, I'm all for it. But they didn't do that in Europe. They have basically taken over the cities with their mayors, and they have a big voting bloc now, and they're causing all kind of problems. Rape, the rape has gone out the roof because Muslim men believe that rape is justified. And now they're coming over here and doing the same thing and chanting death to America. They're teaching Sharia law, which is just directly opposite of the Constitution. And that Mandami the other day, he put his hand on the Quran, which is the Bible of the Muslim faith, basically. And the Quran basically states, kill all infidels. Now, wait a minute. Again, this country was built on immigration, and we want people to come here. But you go by our laws, our constitutions. You can go by any religion you want, but this is not a religion. This is a cult. This is a cult that believes that we're going to grow our cult and we're going to take over all the other religions in the United States of America, and then we will eventually take over the country. And so that's the direction we're headed. And as I said in my speech yesterday, the enemy is not at the gate. They're inside the gate, and they're here. And if we don't wake up and start understanding what's happened to Europe is going to happen here in the United States of America, because we feel like that, oh, this is not really going to affect us. No, it's affecting us right now, and it's going to affect us in the near future, and it's going to get worse.
Yes, the implementation of Sharia law could easily upend our republic and our Constitution and the Western world as we've seen it in Europe, especially in Germany right now. What an absolute disaster happening to that once great nation. And Senator, this week, President Trump and your colleagues there in the Oval Office and cabinet members from Secretary Kennedy to Secretary Brooke Rollins, Dr. Ben Carson as well, allowing 2% and whole milk back into classrooms across the country. Huge for our farmers from Butler, Pennsylvania, down to Midland, Texas, all the way up to the great Auburn, California, although we're home here to Auburn, Alabama at Right Side Broadcasting Network. What say you as you look to be the next governor of the Yellowhammer State? Because there's a lot of farms right here in Alabama. And how will this bill signing and implementation of common sense, as Howard Lutnick put it, make a big difference for those Alabamians?
Well, it goes back to show you how our country has been taken over by the food manufacturers. And what does that mean? It means that we have been taught over the years, for instance, you can't eat butter. Butter is not really good for you. You need to eat margarine, okay? Butter is too much fat and it causes health problems. Well, the same thing with milk. Oh, you can't drink whole milk. You got to drink skim milk or non-fat milk. And let's don't give that protein to our kids. Let's make sure that they're healthy. Well, that was directly opposite of what should have been taught. And thank goodness to Robert Kennedy and and Brooke Rollins and all the people involved, they're readjusting our food pyramid. And if you look at it, what they were telling us to eat, it's exactly the opposite of what we should be eating. And it's just unfortunate. But I'm glad to see President Trump step in and say, listen, in our schools now, we need to have whole milk. Obviously, you give the option if if you want to have kids, don't need or want whole milk, you don't feed them that. But it's going to be great for our farmers. I'd say our farmers are really been hammered by the Biden administration for the 4 years, and I'm on the Ag Committee. I see all the statistics, and what happened when Joe Biden came into office, they attacked our farmers. They wanted all the food, all the milk, everything that's grown and sold in our grocery stores. They don't want it to be produced in the United States because they think that it is killing our climate. And so we're going to buy everything out of the country, which makes no sense. So what happened? We lost 150,000 farms. Folks, listen to me, 150,000 farms that the Democrats and the Biden administration just ran out of this country, put under, bankrupt, and now President Trump's having to put tariffs on people sending stuff in so our farmers can readjust and get back into the game. And so it's just, we are a country that used to produce everything. And the Democrats don't want to produce anything. They want to ship it out. President Trump wants America to have American made, and that's the direction that we headed. And milk is just one of those products.
Now, will this be central to your campaign for governor? Because we have certain situations where Alabama is the 7th poorest state in the nation, but we've seen a lot of cooperation with those state governments that want to work with this administration. And President Trump has said, Republican and Democrat, independent to green to libertarian, whatever it is, I'm willing to pick up the phone. And he proved that before Mayor Mamdani took office with inviting him to the Oval Office to see where they can work on specific items regardless of ideology. What do you hope to accomplish as the next governor of Alabama?
Yeah, I've been around President Trump now 5 or 6 years and had a lot of discussions with him. And he's all about America. He's all about workers. And, he's employed people forever. And he knows how to build things. And so, that's what I appreciate about him. He's not a politician. He's not a lawyer. He understands the economy. But, the big thing is he has a plan, and a plan to get America back first again in everything. And we're not doing that. Now, we'll do the same thing when I'm governor of the state of Alabama, is we're going to focus on 10, 12 things. And those 10 or 12 things, when we make progress in that and make those better, it makes everything around it better. And, I learned a lot of that from President Trump. But again, you got the first thing you do is identify, the things that need to be enhanced. And that's what we're doing right now. We've got a primary in May, and then we'll have the general election in November next year. If we do win, I promise you, we will be ready. We will know what we need to work on, what will be the priorities, will it be education, infrastructure, all the things that go along with workforce development, work with small businesses. All those are going to be intact. But the main thing is you've got to make your weak points stronger and get them to a certain level. And it's no different coaching football. I mean, if you're weak on the offensive line, you've got to practice those guys a lot harder, and you got to work with them harder. Same thing in politics. If your healthcare needs work, if your rural health hospitals are going under, you have got to put a lot of emphasis on that. So that's what we'll do. And I'm not doing this to be governor, so to speak. I want to go in and help because I see the problems, and you got to put a good coaching staff together. We'll do that, and it's called your cabinet, and we'll hit the ground running, and we'll do a lot of background work between now and next year.
Well, and you've definitely built up that tenure in the United States Senate. As you see the final year of your service as a United States Senator, do you have any concerns about Republicans seemingly crossing the aisle on the War Powers Act? And how do you see that relating potentially to Greenland and what President Trump is looking to do in acquiring that to protect the northern Atlantic waters? As we know, as shared by the administration, there are Russian and Chinese ships that patrol that area, and I'm sure involved in not only espionage, but trying to implement their fortitude and their power near and around our hemisphere. Do you see this as, I guess, somewhat of the Don Roe doctrine, as the president has aptly coined it?
Well, President Trump is part of his agenda. And again, I've talked to him about it a lot over the years and that I've known him, and playing golf, by the way. He talked a lot of politics playing golf. And his main concern when he was coming back into office was we have to make sure that our hemisphere is taken care of. That's from all the way down to the Argentina, all the way up through Canada, Alaska, through the Arctic, and through Greenland. Now, this War Powers Act, I'm confused with a lot of my colleagues. Now, we've got a bunch of people up here on both sides of the aisle. Some Republicans, they're chicken littles. What does that mean? The sky's falling all the time. Oh my God, we can't do this. We can't do that. They over calculate everything. We did not go to war with Venezuela. What did we do? We went into Venezuela and we arrested a guy that had a charge against him. He is not the president of the country. He's the false dictator of the country. And there was a bounty on his head put on there by Joe Biden. And so President Trump says, we're going to bring this guy to trial. He does not need to be the dictator. Let's free the people of Venezuela. And so he sent in a special forces group. They did an outstanding job and freed the Venezuelans. And then he's in jail. Now, we got people up there, oh, you can't do that. Well, it's not war. We don't have people on the ground. I can understand if we're going to send in, troops and we're going to fight, ground fight and all that, there's a difference. But so we got a lot of people up here that just blow everything up. Now, Greenland is a country that's supposedly controlled by Denmark. And their foreign minister was up here today. I don't think the conversation went well with President Trump because he doesn't take no for an answer very well. But there will be a lot of conversations about what's going to happen in Greenland. As you said, Chinese, the Russians, a lot of people involved there. We got to make sure we have national security on our northern front.
No question about that, as I was one to cover local politics and turn international diplomacy all the way up in Anchorage, Alaska. And Seward's Folly, as I mentioned it before, in the Lincoln administration really became crucial, not only in World War II to the Pacific Command and the fleet, but throughout the Cold War. So it makes us an Arctic nation. And I think when people see that map from the top of the earth, they realize, oh my goodness, this is not far to launch certain missiles and rockets in a certain direction, and all of a sudden you cross continents. Now, Senator Tuberville, I have to ask you to put on that co-chat one more time, as we always enjoy robust discussions with you. Monday, January 19th is College Football Playoff National Championship. Indiana Hoosiers, a Cinderella story, but I believe for the first time they have to go through what's going to be a home game for the University of Miami Hurricane. What are your takes on the big matchup come Monday night?
Yeah, I watched a lot of football, and I was at the game in Atlanta at the Peach Bowl, and I was there fired up about being a good football game. And after the first play, I told my wife, we probably won't be here after halftime, because after they threw that interception, you could just it was like popping a balloon. Oregon looked like they were just dysfunctional. But I tell you, Indiana's got a very, very good football team. They don't make mistakes. I mean, they don't fumble. They hadn't fumbled a ball. I think they had the 1,000th play in that game where they did not have a fumble. The 1,000th. I mean, that's almost unheard of. So if you don't have turnovers and your quarterback is very accurate like he is, who won the Heisman Trophy, you got a great chance. But they don't have a lot of weak points. Here's the deal, though. They're going to Miami. I coached there 10 years. I was on 3 national championship teams there. I never lost a game in Miami when I was coaching in Miami. And why was that? Number one, we're very good. We had a lot of good players. They have good players at Miami this year. Here's their problem. When Indiana goes down to play, it's hard to get used to that heat and humidity. If it is 75, 80 degrees, they better win the first half, because Miami will win that second half, I promise you. So there's a big point there that I don't think that they really understand of what they're getting into. Again, it might be cool. It might be 50 degrees and they might get lucky. But if it's a normal Miami winter weather, at kickoff time, which will probably be around 7 o'clock Eastern time. There's going to be humidity and heat in the air. They're lucky it's not during the day, which would be a disaster for them. But I think that Miami's got a great opportunity because of the home field advantage. But I tell you, I like the quarterback a lot better. And the kid at Georgia, that was at Georgia now that's at Miami playing quarterback, by the way, his 7th year, which is unheard of. He's a good quarterback, but not like this kid at Indiana. He is accurate. And if they don't turn the ball over, they'll probably win the game.
Yes, an exciting game. Can't wait to watch it. And that open stadium there at Hard Rock should make it even more fun. United States Senator Tommy Tuberville, thank you for joining us. Candidate for governor of Alabama. We look forward to seeing you again on the right side of history, and Godspeed, and talk to you very soon, sir.
Thank you. God bless America.
All Family Pharmacy is there for you to help you against traditional pharmacies that might not prescribe these life-saving medications like ivermectin, antibiotics, antivirals, maintenance meds, and much, much more, including 300 different options with emergency medical kits and Tamiflu. So important this time of year during cold and flu season. So this is what happens. You do not need insurance, no red tape, no bureaucracy, simply a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end that will prescribe these great medications to you. The right to try, most favored nation status, and off-label generics, all available through allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. With code RSBN10, you can scan that QR code there now. And again, have your medicine cabinet stocked up for this time of year. Well, cold and flu really going through the roof, especially this flu season seems to have numbers up more than it has been in the past. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, your go-to. Also, we will be having a very special interview with All Family Pharmacy at the 12:30 Eastern time slot. So be sure to check that out, a live interview before Karoline Leavitt's press conference today on biohacking. So stay tuned for these important developments from allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, I'd like to tell you about Monetary Gold, wealth and savings protection for everything you worked hard for, diversifying your IRA into precious metals like gold and silver. And it matters, not just the tangible metals themselves, but also the company you choose to work with. And they have built up an A+ Better Business Bureau rating dating back 26 years now. So grab that complimentary presidential gold guide. Call my friend Scott Cheney, the senior trade executive and portfolio manager out in Los Angeles, California. Really an amazing team of people. 888-617-7994. It's rsbnforthegold.com. That's rsbnforthegold.com. Ask how you can eliminate all those IRA fees permanently for life. And that, again, is Monetary Gold, rsbnforthegold.com. Call today. Do not delay. And we're very thankful to partner with Scott and his team all the way out on the West Coast because, to be honest with this, paper currency falling apart the last 2 decades, the dollar losing 40% of its purchasing power. And with global uncertainties and BRICS nations pushing back, trying to divest from the United States dollar, what are you to do when it comes to protecting those precious savings, gold and silver? Truly the answer as they continue to skyrocket in the economy. 888-617-7994, RSBN for thegold.com. Always a pleasure to work with those amazing people. As Kalshi.com/RSBN, you might as well trade and bet with all those savings. And you can scan that QR code now. And as we talk to Coach Tuberville about Indiana, the dream team, a Cinderella story, 15-0, could be the first team to go 16-0 come Monday night, but they have to go through that humidity of the Miami Hurricanes down in the free sunshine state of Florida. So yes, it does depend on the temperature that night and the fact that it's a home game for Miami, and we have not seen that in this modern college football era. Should be a great game. And of course, the divisional playoffs this weekend. You can bet and trade on all of that. It's sports, music, politics, culture, and more. Questions on what will happen in the future. Roll the dice with kalshi.com/RSBN. And we have a great show in store for you today. Also some afternoon coverage, so be sure to tune in later on today, as well as President Trump will welcome those Florida Panthers to the White House for yet again another White House celebration. So that will be at 3:30 Eastern. Matthew Alvarez will be in for that coverage, and be sure to tune in for that exciting moment, because this president loves sports. He loves the Florida Panthers, and perhaps we'll get yet another jersey, the back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, to celebrate with President Trump at the White House today. But in the meantime, roughly 33 minutes from now, a special interview with All Family Pharmacy at the top of the 1 o'clock hour. 63 minutes or so from now, Karoline Leavitt to give a press briefing from the James S. Brady briefing room at the White House, and they're a live shot on a gloriously sunny day in the federal city. It's a sunny day here in Auburn, Alabama, the loveliest village on the plains. We hope that that sun is shining in your neck of the woods. If not, the days are getting longer, so fear not. It's all going to work itself out. In the meantime, we'll take a quick commercial break for sponsorships and have some more news of the day and everything that's developing in your federal city of Washington, D.C. You're watching The Right Side of History.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely at high noon on the East Coast. It's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. A very good afternoon and good morning to you in your neck of the woods. We always love to hear where you're watching from. Feedback at rsbn.tv, feedback at rsbn.tv. Please feel free to write in if you wish to opine. And on this glorious Thursday, January 15th, some updates that the White House has a processing halt for visas. They are suspending visa processing for people in 75 countries to filter out applicants to are likely to rely on government benefits. Also, troops being deployed to Greenland in this ongoing discussion with the Kingdom of Denmark about that acquirement. We know that President Trump has been talking about this on a near daily basis, whether it was meeting with farmers and colleagues in the Oval Office yesterday and speaking to press, or that Friday meeting of last week with oil and gas executives. Also, Vice President J.D. Vance becoming the tie-breaking vote to protect the administration's ability to use its constitutional authority per Article 2 to protect and defend the nation. We do know that some senators from the Republican side of the aisle crossing over with Democrats, trying to invoke or enhance the War Powers Act, wanting, in a sense, to be updated or briefed before certain actions are taken. But as you noticed from Senator Tommy Tuberville in that interview we had with him, our exclusive interview, he was mentioning that some people worry a bit too much about these situations. And then we do know, as Secretary of State Marco Rubio mentioning, that if this was discussed outside of the Gang of Eight, and if Congress was briefed prior to this, it's likely that Democrats would have leaked this information. It's a very valid concern when it comes to national security. And this was not starting a war, as Senator Warner from the Commonwealth of Virginia has been mentioning over and over, with Iran or Syria or even Venezuela. This was the apprehension of a convicted narco-terrorist, and now he is waiting for that trial. The next court date on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. Also, February 24th, that will be a Tuesday evening where Speaker Mike Johnson will host President Trump along with the 119th Congress for the State of the Union. So tune in for that. We'll have unbridled access and coverage right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as we await Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing. The healthcare question really coming to the forefront, and the White House releasing a fact sheet that President Donald Trump calls on Congress to enact the Great Healthcare Plan. Today, President Trump calling on Congress to enact that Great Healthcare Plan, a comprehensive plan to lower drug prices, lower insurance premiums, hold big insurance companies accountable, and maximize price transparency. This is also lowering drug prices. The Great Healthcare Plan lowers prescription drug prices for all Americans by building on President Trump's historic actions to reduce costs for American patients. The Great Healthcare Plan calls for codifying the Trump administration's most favored nation deals to get Americans the same low prices for prescription drugs that people in other countries pay for. Now, this would build up what President Trump's landmark actions were when it comes to making insulin more affordable in the first term and the successful voluntary negotiations following the recent executive order to lower drug prices. Voluntary negotiated deals with HHS and CMS will be grandfathered in. Now, the Great Healthcare Plan makes more viable, safe pharmaceutical drugs available for over-the-counter purchase. This will lower healthcare costs and increase consumer choice by strengthening price transparency, increasing competition, and reducing the need for costly and time-consuming doctor's visits. Now, the lowering of insurance premiums, the Great Healthcare Plan is focused on doing just that, executing the president's vision to send money directly to the American people, lower those health insurance premiums, and cut kickbacks that raise the insurance premiums. And we know he's been very passionate about meeting with insurance executives about these matters and finding ways to bring these costs down. Now, the Great Healthcare Plan stops sending big insurance companies billions in extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead sends money directly to the eligible American to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice. This plan also focuses a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans, which would save taxpayers at least $36 billion and reduce the most common Obamacare plans premium by over 10%, according to the Congressional Budget Office. The Great Healthcare Plan will end the kickbacks paid by pharmacy benefit managers. It's otherwise known as PBMs, something that our friends at All Family Pharmacy very familiar with. And this can create a large brokerage middleman that deceptively raises the cost of health insurance. So it's really trying to go right back to the source and getting rid of the bureaucrats and letting this be about the doctor and the patient once again. So in doing this plan, the goal is to hold big insurance companies accountable. This plan ends the days of insurance companies using complexity to make it difficult for Americans to hold them to account, while creating the plain English insurance standard and requiring insurance companies to prominently post the profits they take out of the premiums, as well as information on the frequency for which they deny care. The Great Healthcare Plan creates the plain English standard by requiring health insurance companies to publish these rates and what they are charging people for. It's not industry jargon, just plain English, so consumers can make better insurance choices. Sounds like common sense. The Great Healthcare Plan will require health insurance companies to publish the percentage of their revenues that are paid out to claims versus overhead costs and profits on their website. Now, the Great Healthcare Plan also requires health insurance companies to publish the percentage of insurance claims they reject and average wait times and routine care on their websites. Now, part of this as well, and I'm sure might be addressed today via the press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, there has been some canceling of federal grants in regards to mental health care from the administration, perhaps in creating this new transparent plan. We'll see what is asked and answered today at the White House in regards to those details. But this maximizes price transparency, with this plan requiring any healthcare provider or insurer who accepts Medicare or even Medicaid to prominently post their pricing and fees in their place of business and ensure insurance companies are complying with price transparency requirements. Now, let's date back to late in President Trump's first term. He issued historic regulations requiring hospitals and insurance companies to post prices in various forms. Now, the Biden administration failed to enforce these requirements and took no actions to help patients access actual prices. So this plan requires all healthcare providers and insurers to answer their patients and upfront on the prices they will be charged, so it restores accountability, common sense, transparency, and rightly giving power back to the consumer and the patients. This is all delivering on promises to lower the cost of healthcare. And that's why great sponsors we team up with here at Right Side Broadcasting include places like allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, doing just that. You don't have to go down the street to the traditional pharmacy. They're breaking up the conglomerates by having an online option. All you have to do is send in a pharmaceutical note, and you have a U.S. licensed doctor on the other end who reviews that order, sends it right back to your door. For 10% off right now, code RSBN10 of 300 options in life-saving medications, Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, antivirals, maintenance medications, and emergency medical kits, and NAD+, methylene blue, the biohacking facilities and materials that can help with a number of different things. We'll talk to our friends from allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN at the bottom of the hour, 12:30. Be sure to catch that live interview that might help you with looking to keep yourself healthy in this new year, especially against cold and flu. It's the pharmacy that's protecting your medical freedom. They believe that you should have access to generic off-label options and not have to go through the corporate bureaucracy that exists with traditional pharmacies. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They care about you and yours. It's in the name. It's all about family. And why not get 10% off right now of all of these life-saving options? Code RSBN10. Also, thank you to angelpaste.com, the miracle that is the vitamin B cream I use on a daily basis, and it is quite lovely and refreshing. They also have the orange option filled with vitamin C, also non-GMO, no chemicals. It's all about being all natural and putting good, healthy, real things on your skin, because there's a lot of products out there that do just the opposite. At angelpaste.com, They are also Christian-owned. They hire veterans. They prioritize that, and they're based out of Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. Experience the miracle that is many different options, including a facial spray, all natural, that you can use to paint the town red, whether it's that first date or that 50th wedding anniversary. Angel Paste Miracle Cream is there for the guys and the gals at angelpaste.com. Also, thank you to Tax Network. It's tnusa.com/RSBN. Settle those back taxes today, whether you missed April 15th, October 15th, or anywhere in between. Perhaps you started a business and then you just had all these receipts and it was a complete mess getting off the ground. It happens. Protect yourself from the IRS. Settle those back taxes today. Call today and do not delay at 800-357-1415. 800-357-1415. These are Patriot experts that many have worked for the IRS and many have been accountants for a number of years. So you know you're getting expert advice from the best at tnusa.com/RSBN. That is Tax Network USA Incorporated. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as much of the theme of today is the healthcare discussion, and it's not so much a right or a left issue. It's very purple, and everyone experiences this at some point in life, as Secretary Kennedy and his team at DHS, or at the Health and Human Services, HHS, have really exposed the keep you sick kind of care that has been corporate health care in this country. And that's why President Trump, working with this great health care plan to deliver on promises to lower the cost of health care ultimately. President Trump promised to lower health care costs for all Americans, and the great health care plan will build off of critical actions already taken in the second term to help Americans afford high-quality health care. Now, on May 12th of 2025, President Trump signing an executive order titled Delivering Most Favored Nation Prescription Drug Pricing to American Patients, now directing the administration to take numerous actions to bring American drug prices in line with those paid by similar nations. Since that time, the administration has secured 16 deals with major pharmaceutical manufacturers to bring prices in line with those paid in other developed nations, providing substantial price relief on numerous products taken by millions of Americans. Shortly after returning to office, President Trump signed an executive order titled Making America Healthy Again by empowering patients with clear, accurate, and actionable health care pricing information, directing the administration to, after years of neglect by Biden and his administration, promoting universal access to clear and accurate healthcare prices. Since that time, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has ramped up enforcement against hospitals out of compliance with price transparency rules, finalized improvements to hospital price transparency, and proposed significant improvements to price transparency rules for insurance companies. So this is a historic win with the Working Families Tax Cut Law by expanding access to health savings accounts for up to 10 million people on Obamacare specifically. This also took the most significant actions to reduce healthcare fraud and abuses in history and made the largest investment in rural healthcare for the American people. And we know there's so much fraud, waste, and abuse happening in and around healthcare, including what we've seen with these daycare centers. So we'll go to Truth Social and cut number one, Mr. Producer, with President Trump still talking about the amazing story that has been Minnesota. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. We're going to be hearing about this perhaps all year. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And we have seen that as well. President Trump stating with cut number two, that a highly respected judge declined to block ICE operations in the very politically corrupt state of Minnesota. ICE, therefore, will continue and be allowed its highly successful operation of removing some of the most violent and vicious criminals anywhere in the world. Many of them murderers from the state, and the great patriots of law enforcement will continue to make our country safe. Record low crime numbers. And we're seeing that in big cities across the country, especially after intervention from DHS and ICE agents, and also Border Patrol and Commander Greg Bavino leading his team, doing an amazing job, whether it's it doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's snowing, if it's cold, if it's hot. They go there, they get the job done, and they're removing some of the most vicious individuals in the entire world. We know that Venezuela, other South American, Central American countries emptied their prisons. They went up through the wide open border under Biden, and we know names like Laken Riley to Jocelyn Nunn, Gary Rachel Morin, who should all still be with us because this was all a preventable crime, and now it's being taken care of. Fox News reporting, President Trump sharing this on True Social as well with cut number 3, that an Iranian protester will no longer be sentenced to death after President Trump's warnings, likewise others. This is good news, and hopefully it will continue. There are certain reports that it's been 500, 2,000, anywhere upward to 12,000. I think that number is somewhat unsure, given that sometimes there is access to internet, sometimes there is not. Elon Musk helping so much with his facilities and his ability to get those Starlinks into the country. But we know that the Iranian regime banning that, so to have outside communication with others, very difficult. And we saw that someone taking a U-Haul, of all things, terrible, driving it into a crowd of protesters in Los Angeles, California, home to the largest Armenian Christian and Iranian American populations, true refugees who left their countries to avoid genocide. And speaking on those stories, so President Trump encouraging those people in Iran to keep protesting, not only the skyrocketing inflation, something that we could never even imagine, I think, here at home, but also the oppressive regime that is the Iranian Republican Guard and the mullahs that are there. So we'll continue to watch that as this country ended that 12 days war on President Trump's command to bring in the bombers and dismantle those testing facilities and centrifuges as they were building up their nuclear program, as President Obama really gave them a ransom, in a sense, millions and millions of dollars going to the Iranian regime. Why would he have done that, given their track record? So this president is making peace through strength happen with this MAGA agenda, an America First outlook, not only domestically, but around the world. Unfortunately, more potential fraud in Minneapolis with cut number 4, the president stating, does anyone believe that in Minneapolis, these are food stamp businesses? There's no food. There's no cleanliness. There's no service. There's no nothing except fraud. They get sent millions of dollars of taxpayer money and laugh at how stupid the Americans are, but not anymore. These people should be sent back to Somalia or any other country from where they came. California, Illinois, New York, and so many other places are equally as bad. It's all a giant Democrat scam with protection from the fake news media, but it will end. We will make America great again. I think we have some of those photos as well of these places that look rather empty. Very interesting to see all of that, just like the daycare centers. So much fraud. It's either two things, especially as you look in journalism, regardless of right, left, or center. Is it complete ignorance from these Democrat elected officials, or is it something perhaps darker, more insidious, protecting illegal aliens and allowing for fraud, waste, and abuse to happen? And people, whatever conservative, liberal, whatever ideology they have, they don't want to be robbed from. And hardworking Americans, whether legal immigrants or born in this country, paying into tax programs at a local, state, and federal level, to have that robbed by illegal aliens, and then for people to actually be hungry in this country as a result of that, or for daycare prices to go through the roof, it's an absolute travesty. And that's why it's so good to be on the right side of history and part of the new media to expose these stories and to bring these to you, whether it's in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or in Democrat-run states like New York, Illinois, and California. The truth is truly coming out. I want to take a moment to thank Monetary Gold, our dear friends out in Los Angeles. My friend Scott Cheney, the senior trade executive and portfolio manager, who he and his team ready, willing, and able to answer that call and walk through your personalized steps about eliminating IRA fees for life. Make sure you ask about that. And if you're in the market for gold and silver, because it's skyrocketing right now, a great way to diversify your IRA or even your savings and everything that goes with that. 888-617-7994, RSBN4thegold.com. That is RSBN4thegold.com. Call immediately to discover how you can eliminate your annual IRA fees permanently for life. Get rid of them. And if that's the only thing holding you back, be sure to give them a call, because you could look through that complimentary presidential gold guide. And let me tell you, having a career at one point in sales, these guys don't bother you. They're there to truly help you. And it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has a different size pair of shoes, and they know that. They want to walk you through a personalized plan that can help you with the diversification using gold and silver. And it matters the company you choose, not just the tangibles, because they don't give you any gimmicks or cards or anything that will be a limited edition coin. No, none of that. They actually look at real bullion and how that affects the gold and silver market, and in turn, your economic standing. Because cash and those traditional ways of going about currency, they are paper thin. They could be erased, and they're losing their purchasing power. In fact, 40% in the last 2 decades. We know the BRICS nations, as things happen globally with India, China, Russia, Venezuela, Iran, they're all divesting from the US dollar for various reasons. So gold and silver should be part of your portfolio. Call my friend Scott Cheney out there in Los Angeles, 888-617-7994. Ask how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently for life. They have been in business for 26 years, an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. It's about integrity, clarity, and honesty. RSBN4thegold.com. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. Love Mr. Mike Lindell, a dear friend of ours, and also a candidate for governor of Minnesota. We know truth and transparency would be up there in Minneapolis if he was in charge. No question about that. But in the meantime, he's in charge of this great all-American company. Still, it's a very Merry Christmas, even though we're back into the regular ordinary season, but nothing's ordinary with Mr. Mike Lindell. In fact, he's an extraordinary businessman, ethical, responsible, also a man whose story is so endearing to countless Americans. 80% off right now for over 2,000 options at mypillow.com/RSBN. I love those My Slippers, the My Coffee, as well as My Pillow 1.0. There's a 2.0, and you have themed pillows as well. Those Giza Dream Sheets, amazing. All the way from the Mediterranean, but made right here in America. It's mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mike Lindell. If you like what you see here, your go-to live desk and Rally Network, feel free to donate, as we're in the new media and we're up against those big legacy items. So rsbnetwork.com/donate, text RSBN to 801-801, or send that check or money order to 1550, 1550, Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village in the Plains. It's Auburn, Alabama. 36830, 1550, Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Some great live video, well, recorded video from 2024, but it will probably look just the same. These midterms, as Susie Wiles has said, we are putting President Trump out there on the campaign trail and breaking some protocol, because he might not be on the ballot, but his policies definitely are. With all these newly drawn maps, it should be an exciting time out in this midterm. So get involved however you can in your neck of the woods. Also, you can like, share, and subscribe at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers. And there's some great writers here at the network, if you do not know, that will dive into many different topics of the day. So be sure to follow us there at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter for all updates. You don't miss a minute of the action with a live shot there of Washington, D.C. We'll take a quick commercial break at the turn of that. In a couple of minutes, our dear friends from All Family Pharmacy, be sure to tune in for this interview on biohacking. A lot of information that I did not know about and that I'm very interested in with the future as we're living in glorious times, a golden era. And thank God that we live in 2026 with all the problems that are out there, because in the field of medicine, a lot of amazing advancements. So we'll talk to them about that. In the meantime, a quick commercial break for sponsorships. You are watching Right Side Broadcasting Network. Do not change that dial and stay with us on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. And welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are awaiting Karoline Leavitt, the superstar, the White House press secretary, at the top of the hour. A 1 o'clock scheduled press briefing from the James S. Brady briefing room. In the meantime, our friend Michael Kunzler from All Family Pharmacy. So good to see you, sir, as I am just fascinated by this entire biohacking emergence. And we know that Secretary Kennedy talking about this, but All Family Pharmacy really leading the way on this, especially with access to online generic medications, off-label as well. So explain to us how taking NAD+, either the shots or the supplements from All Family Pharmacy, can give you more energy and help you to build up your brain to work better and slow down that aging process.
So NAD Plus is an interesting one. We love it here. It's truly made its mark on All Family Pharmacy. We actually sell a lot of it now. The one thing we have to be wary of is, people with cancer, which, is some of our patients as well. But again, NAD Plus is the battery that drives your body. We produce the ATP energy through cells. So cellular energy is stabilized energy. It's great energy. It's not like drinking a cup of coffee or an espresso and you get a quick jolt and a crash later on, right? So which is interesting. So it helps us turn food into energy. It keeps your cells healthy. It keeps them alive, which is important, right? As we talk about neurodegenerative diseases, a lot of the problems with neurodegenerative diseases is dying cells. Dying cells in your brain, you're losing memory, we're losing a lot. And so NAD Plus, we put out a big Substack, and there's a lot of big articles starting to come out that they're noticing in those patients with specific neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. They're starting to see very low levels of NAD in those cells, meaning those cells are dying. How can we supplement it? We could supplement it with NAD. We could keep our cells alive in our brain. Some people like to use methylene blue as well. It's another thing that will keep our cells alive in our brain and keep us feeling younger. NAD plus is great in the anti-aging world. As we get older, our levels drop. People don't understand how awesome of a supplement it is and how it can just kind of revitalize your body throughout your working week.
Yes, it really seems like so much of this at the cellular level that's being discovered now. Now, how do the glutathione shots or supplements that you offer as well from All Family Pharmacy help to clean out the system? Because we know detoxifying the liver and the brain can fight everyday pollution that we're exposed to now just living in 2026 and keep your immune system strong. Is there a way as well to add vitamin C into your diet that's not just when you get the cold, but to prevent any further illness that might create damage down the road?
Yeah, glutathione's an interesting one. I just did a couple interviews in some other podcasts, and it was a huge hit with our patients. And the reason why is because a lot of our patients are on different types of maintenance medications, and they're really putting a lot of stress on their liver with the medications they're taking. Alcohol could be another one. We don't frown upon alcohol. We have a lot of social drinkers in our world, and, hangover effects are pretty damaging on the liver. So glutathione is an interesting one. It's like a super antioxidant. It turns a toxin or a heavy metal into a water soluble or bile. Right. So a lot of people, if you go on social media, you're going to see all these influencers talk about taking glutathione before they go in the sauna, because what we're doing is we're increasing our glutathione levels. We're breaking down these toxins that are in our body. We're breaking down these heavy metals that we're ingesting in everyday food and medication. And then you want to sweat it all out because it becomes water soluble. So we can actually rid the body of it. It's almost like a built-in cleaner, essentially. So we're getting rid of harmful toxins that are causing stress and damage on your liver, as well as inflammation. One of the things we always hear people talking about is taking milk thistle and all these over-the-counter supplements. The problem with over-the-counter supplements is that you can make any claim you want. At the end of the day, the FDA does not approve any of those supplements. So you can't get sued for making a false claim on a supplement that's probably not going to work. When we work in the medication realm on the pharmaceutical side, I can't sit here and tell you a product and tell you it's meant for a specific purpose. And if it's not meant for that purpose, it's damaging on my reputation. The regulators can step in and it could be damaging on us. So when we talk about pharmaceuticals, we only talk about what they're good for. Glutathione is great for liver. It's great for liver health. It's great to prevent the stress that we're doing every day on our liver. So all of our cancer patients, they're going through chemo. They're going through all these different types of steroids. Steroids are very harmful to your liver. Tylenol, like President Trump talks about and RFK Jr. talks about, Tylenol is very stressful on your liver. They showed in that trial that Tylenol reduces your glutathione levels in your liver, allowing the mercury and all the other toxins in the vaccine to actually attack your body, attack your brain specifically, causing the neurological problems in children, autism, ADHD, ADD, you name it. So when we talk about glutathione, the interesting thing is it's a huge supplement that as we get older, we should also include in our diet because we want to protect the liver. The liver is very important as we get older.
Well, it's extraordinary. And I think just a few years ago, people were decrying certain voices experiencing this even with their children. And now they are being justified from all these studies. No question about that. Now, for people trying to stay strong and recover from, say, workouts and fight aging, so something I'm interested in with the Ceramorelin, because All Family Pharmacy helps your body produce all of this on its own hormone naturally. And I'm trying to figure this out as I leave the gym because all of a sudden I'm starting to feel my age a little bit. So are there people out there that should take anything like that to slow down aging or just simply have a better recovery from their workouts?
Yeah, so Ceramorelin, all of the Morlins, we call them, Ipamorelin, Tesamorelin, these are peptides, right, that are very popular now. Basically, it pushes a button on your pituitary gland to say, hey, let's produce some growth hormones. Everybody thinks growth hormones, they think bodybuilders. Well, that's not true, right? Bodybuilders love growth hormones for a specific reason, but they tend to abuse them more than a human being would normally do. We do them in a very low dose. as we get older, we lose out on growth hormones. That's why we start to see that aging kick in. Your metabolism drops, your muscle growth drops, your muscle recovery drops, and then more importantly, your sleep drops. For men, testosterone and growth hormones truly push us into a deep sleep so we can produce more hormones and allows us to get that full 8 hours. As we get older, that 8 hours turns into 7 hours, which turns into 6 hours, and we go in through those cycles. So Somorelin is great because it puts you in a nice deep sleep before bedtime, and it tells your body it's time to produce some growth hormones for the next day. And what it does is it naturally produces it through the pituitary gland, and we're going to boost metabolism. We're going to boost your muscle growth and your muscle recovery. Muscle recovery comes from boosting muscle growth. It's something that we're highly encouraging a lot of our patients to do. Those who have cancer or have precursors to cancer, hereditary cancer, we tell you to probably not look into the Somorelins because it's almost like adding fuel to a fire in a way. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it is. So some of these peptides really are not meant for those with cancer. We always tell you to talk to your primary care physician or your oncologist about it. Traditionally, oncologists will more likely than not tell you no. But those that are healthy and that are just traditionally aging as we go, these are great products. They're great to stack with each other and try them out. I promise you, I've tried just about every single one of them when we started bringing them in almost a year ago. I wanted to see the effects of it. And it's great because we're producing it naturally. One of the things that people don't understand is the difference between a natural peptide and a synthetic medication. Testosterone replacement therapy is a synthetic medication. We're adding testosterone to our body, so our body's going to naturally shut down and say we don't need testosterone because we've already added it to the regimen. Well, we're gonna offer some peptides that are naturally occurring amino acids that tells your body, let's kick into gear, let's start producing these yourself. So that's what we love about these peptides, is that we produce everything naturally. We're not adding synthetics to your body.
Oh, that's fascinating. Very good to know for the viewers as well, because I'm sure they have questions over that specifically. Tirzepatide, how can that help from All Family Pharmacy when it comes to losing fat, controlling hunger? We know that we've already passed Quitter's Day for resolutions. So I know that at All Family Pharmacy, you are the folks that are more get 10% better every day and have that focus and outlook. And this great assistance can make that have improved energy. And even this can work with people that do have diabetes, I believe. But if you can dive in further to that, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so originally the medication, tirzepatide, which is the most popular one right now that's FDA approved. There was the original Ozempic Wegovy, which is semaglutide. It's a GLP-1. Tirzepatide is a GLP-2. It works on two separate receptors. One is to produce insulin. One is to tell your body, hey, I'm full. I already ate. We don't need any more food. It's more to curb your appetite. It's a gastric bypass. If you're getting surgery, you can't take it because it slows down your gastric bypass, which, going deeper into medicine will tell you, any surgeon will tell you, hey, you can't take this for a couple of weeks before our surgery. So tirzepatide is interesting in the fact that the new one that's coming through trials is actually promoting even more health benefits other than losing weight and, increasing your A1C levels. What I love about tirzepatide is, and I hear from moms all the time, right? I go to my son's school, my daughter's school, and, they see me wearing this All Family Pharmacy shirt. And they go, oh, you own a pharmacy. Do you know anything about GLP-1s and tirzepatide and Mounjaro and all that? We go into a conversation. They talk about after giving birth, 6 months after they're done breastfeeding, they're going on a microdosing and they're noticing that it's balancing their hormones. It's helping them with everyday activities. It's giving them that fight to get them back to normalcy. And then those women who are also aging are becoming a little bit more insulin resistant because our insulin doesn't work properly as we get older. Most people become, diabetic type 2. And that's where the trials came in to approve the drug originally. So when we dive into, tirzepatides of the world, they showed a huge decrease in weight loss with tirzepatide, which is amazing. Now, we're talking, a lot of different things about tirzepatide being a GLP-2. They have the newest one, which is retatrutide, which is a peptide that, essentially we'll have access to. It's a GLP-3. They're finding out that it's, helping people with arthritis. It's helping fatty liver disease. It's doing things more than just weight loss should be doing. And so these drugs are becoming the, gold standard of medication nowadays because they're all following the natural chain of peptides. So we love the tirzepatide, and we have tons and tons of people who are very happy with it, who have been taking it for periods of time, and it's helping them get the lifestyle they had when they were in their 20s and 30s.
And this can also be in addition to if people are experiencing insulin resistance. Can that increase that with this route?
Yes, tirzepatide does. One of the things that people understand is I've seen it firsthand even before all this medication was out. You see an individual who needs to lose 20, 30 pounds, and they do all the diet, they do all the exercise, and ultimately they can only lose a few pounds, and they kind of hit like a brick wall. That's your body signaling you that there's something wrong with your insulin production. You're not breaking down sugars, you're not breaking down carbs properly. I mean, I would rather you talk to a physician more direct about it with insulin resistance. But it is a popular thing amongst those 40 years old, 50 years old. It is a common thing. And something like tirzepatide can give you that little boost that you need. I've seen it work, and I've seen people lose 70 pounds, 80 pounds. The newest one, the retatrutide that's in top trials right now, is the #1 drug in FDA history for weight loss in any FDA trials. I think it was on average like 71 pounds per patient. It's incredible what it has done for the weight loss community. There are side effects. There are tremendous side effects. They're not going to make you go blind, but that's what the news is telling you. So, pancreatitis is something that's a part of this as well. Pancreatitis is a side effect. But again, sometimes microdosing is sometimes a good thing. People don't understand that you don't need to take a ton of drugs. You just need a little bit to give your body a little bit of a boost. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to take 10 to 15 milligrams of tirzepatide every week. Right, you're gonna start seeing a lot of side effects. Those are the ceiling doses. Right, I don't sit here and tell you to take 100 milligrams of ivermectin. We want you to take what's comfortable for you and what's comfortable for your body, and how you can, subside on side effects. That's what my team of pharmacists is trained to do. So.
Fantastic. And again, speaking with Michael Kunzler from All Family Pharmacy, you can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for all of these amazing developments on biohacking. And speaking on that, Michael, for biohackers wanting faster healing, less inflammation, again, whether it's after the gym or just better focus and brain power at work or just being more present in the new year with family and friends, how do specific peptides like BPC-157 for gut and joint repair or others work for the muscles and the brain as well? What's a safe way to dose them? And how do non-FDA approved uses all play into this as you recommend this for patients and customers?
Yeah, so BPC-157 is probably the most popular peptide on the market right now. The FDA has not approved it yet. It's still in the works. It's going to go through its similar processes. We maybe be 1 to 3 years out from seeing it on the market. The problem is it's a natural occurring peptide. It's created in your stomach to help keep the inflammation and to cure leaky gut and a few other different instances within your stomach. But what they found is injecting it near the site of an injury in a safe place where there's a fat pocket or a muscle has shown to bring down inflammation in the joint. Combining it with TB500, they also showed in these small trials that TB500 actually helps with repairing small tissue damage. It's actually healing the body a lot faster than what the body can do. And the reason why we know this is true is not just because of the small data that's out there, and that, thousands and thousands of Americans are trying to find a safe place to buy it that's, got the real stuff and it's not, some fake stuff out of China, is the World Doping Agency and the Olympics has banned it. And if they banned it, that means that it works. They don't want their athletes recovering faster than certain athletes can recover. It's banned in horse racing. If you know anything about horse racing, they beat those horses up throughout their training process. And then they inject them with a little TB500 to repair the tissue damage that they've done. And the horse is back up on their feet faster than they should be. So these peptides that are naturally occurring in our body, they're showing a lot of promise for the future, which is interesting. So we're really excited about it. We've partnered with a couple of our pharmaceutical companies that we work with directly to try to bring some of these in so we can start having these conversations early, because a lot of them are very beneficial. I had a meeting with my orthopedic last night. He takes care of my knee. I have arthritis in my knee. We've had multiple conversations about it. He wants to start working with his own patients with it because they're seeing the results. The demand is there. People are asking more and more questions. What is BPC 157? What is TV 500? And how can it help me? How can it help my arthritis in my knee? How could it help me? I just hurt my back. How could it help me? I just rolled my ankle, or I hurt my foot, or I have plantar fasciitis because I'm a runner. How can it help me? And these questions have grown significantly over the year. And we're almost at the point where the FDA has to step in and make this thing FDA approved for humans, because there's a ton of data out there to prove it otherwise.
Well, it's really fascinating. Are there additional peptides as well to those that can help with any of these ailments?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's hundreds of peptides out there now. They're more and more every day. It depends on what the target goal of the patient is, because, finding out your target goal would find out which peptide would actually work specific for you. You shouldn't take every single one of them all at once. You want to attack specific areas that you need the help the most. Weight loss, you jump into like a tirzepatide or retatrutide style peptide. And then we combat that with a little bit of human growth. The growth hormone, when we naturally produce it on top of tirzepatide, is going to help your body from breaking down muscle. One of the things with tirzepatide and the GLP-1s is that it attacks muscle, because we're almost like we're fasting. We don't want to break that muscle down. So in order to conserve it, we produce a little bit more growth hormone so your body concentrates on the muscle. And then it's going to give you a faster metabolism and more energy throughout the day. And then, we have the NAD plus of the world, which is, one of my favorites, cellular energy. There are more and more I'd love to talk about. They don't have as much data as the ones we discussed, but there are out there. I'm trying to think what else we can, go. There's epithalon. Epithalon is approved in Russia for menopause. It's to repair the DNA chain. It's an interesting one. It supposedly helps you sleep at night. It's supposed to repair your DNA chain, make you feel 10 years younger. This is in Russia. Can we trust the data out of Russia? I don't know. That's always a question that, people don't want to answer. So there are so many peptides out there. That's just what is the target goal of the patient. That's all.
Well, these are fascinating discoveries, and I'm sure we'll get more information as the days goes on. So we're very thankful to you, Michael, at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, where you can really assist in making your life better, simpler, and feel stronger and more focused with all of this. Thanks for the robust discussion. We're running that code RSBN10 right now for 10% off. Anything new on the horizon or any amazing deals to point out to viewers at All Family Pharmacy?
Yes. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to run a 30% off coupon on any biohacking item. We do this, once a quarter, because we want to encourage patients to try out some of these supplements, because we know firsthand they work. So it's allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. And then the code is RSBN30. That's going to save 30% off the entire order of whatever supplement, whatever medication they choose. That's one of the biohacking or weight loss medications. And if they want to have a conversation about some of the other peptides, we can have that conversation as well on the phone. We can go over some of the ones that are available for that 30% off coupon as well. I highly encourage those who have not tried it to try glutathione. Like you said before, when you mix it with vitamin C, women love it because it gives their skin a nice glow when they supplement it for a specific amount of time. NAD Plus is a game changer. It really helps with your mind, with focus, with cellular energy. It's a nice, stabilized energy. And for those who are athletes and like to work out, or those who want to get themselves back into the gym, NAD Plus is almost like a pre-workout. It gets your body into that gear, and it pushes yourself beyond your limits.
Fantastic. Breaking news on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you, Michael Kunzler, co-owner of All Family Pharmacy. We are very appreciative of you and partnering with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that was a great interview. Just so much that I learned right there about biohacking and what you could use perhaps at home. So again, feel free to visit allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking RSBN30 That is the new code, RSBN 30, for 30% off of these biohacking products. So scan that QR code there. NAD+, the Morellins, as you heard from Mr. Michael Kunzler, the glutathiones, and the methylene blue, all 30% off right now, RSBN 30, and more Americans switching to online pharmacies instead of the traditional route, instead of going through the layers of the corporate issues that can come up, and some pharmacies that simply do not prescribe these life-saving and life-enhancing products. allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking, code RSBN 30 right now. Take advantage of that in this first quarter of the year. Scan that QR code there. Again, our thanks to Michael Kunzler and the amazing professionals there at All Family Pharmacy, as we are moments away from Karoline Leavitt holding a press briefing, the superstar press secretary, who is going to detail perhaps some of these things here on the great American healthcare plan. And the first 15 days of January, nothing slowing down here in the world. And in this golden era, as we appreciate and approach America 250, our celebration of an amazing place, and not only a piece of land that we have, but an idea, a constitutional republic born out of literal blood, sweat, and tears, from 13 colonies to now 50 states and 6 territories, and perhaps a 51st state, whether that be Canada or Greenland. We're all here for it, to give you that unbridled access to your 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, the 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress, now in its second term as we approach midterms 2026. We'll take a quick commercial break here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Stick with us at the top of the hour. Karoline Leavitt, you're watching the Right Side of History.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Moments away from the James S. Brady briefing room, another press briefing by the superstar Karoline Leavitt. We will watch that for you as President Trump unveils the great healthcare plan to lower costs across the country and deliver money directly to the American people. Immediate release coming from the White House. President Trump unveiling this plan to lower those costs for the American people. It's a broad healthcare initiative that will slash prescription drug prices, reduce insurance premiums, hold big insurance companies accountable, and maximize price transparency in the American healthcare system. Now, the plan will deliver money directly to the American people. not insurance companies. So big pharma and special interest groups putting patients over industry leaders, profits, just as promised by this president. The great healthcare plan also builds on the successes of the first term by promoting competition, eliminating wasteful spending, and putting consumers back in control. So here's some of the details with President Trump speaking directly on this great American healthcare plan. I am thrilled to announce my plan to lower healthcare prices for all Americans and truly make healthcare affordable again. We are doing the things that nobody's ever been able to do. We're calling it the Great Healthcare Plan. Instead of putting the needs of big corporations and special interests first, our plan finally puts you and puts your money in your pocket. Now, the government is going to pay the money directly to you. According to the president, it goes to you, and then you take the money and buy your own health care. The big insurance companies lose, and the people of our country win. This proposal locks in the massive discount on prescription drugs that my administration is achieving through the most favored nation drug pricing agreement. It'll bring down drug prices 80 or 90% in some cases, and just numbers that nobody has ever heard of before. Your prescription drugs will come way, way down. And under this policy, the prices of many drugs will be slashed by 300, 400, even 500% starting this month at trumprx.gov. So that will launch very soon, trumprx.gov. So instead of Americans paying the highest drug prices in the world, the president continued to state, which we have for decades, we will now be paying the lowest cost paid by any other nation. That's what we're going to pay, and the American people will get the savings. Now, the president continued speaking on this plan. I have to reiterate, the lowest price in the world is what you're going to pay. Before, you were paying the highest price in the world by far, and the politicians did nothing about it. So I'm asking Congress to complete the work that we've started. My plan would reduce your insurance premiums by stopping government payoffs to big insurance companies and sending that money directly to the people. Obamacare was designed to make insurance companies rich. I call it Unaffordable Care Act, as it was coined the Affordable Care Act under the Obama administration. With billions of dollars in taxpayer subsidies that help their stock prices skyrocket over 1,700% as you paid more for health care every single year. More and more, the premiums went higher and higher. I want to end this flagrant scam and put extra money straight into the healthcare savings accounts in your name. And you go out and buy your own health care, and you'll make a great deal. You'll get health care for less money. That is the way you can choose the care that is right for your family. To further reduce insurance premiums, my plan ends the giant kickbacks to insurance brokers and corporate middlemen that only drive up the costs. It fully funds a long-neglected part of the law known as the Cost Sharing Reduction Program. This measure alone should cut premiums on the most popular Obamacare plans. It's hard to believe there are any because it's a hated program. It's unaffordable, and it's going to cut them by an average of 10 to 15%. So that's some statements there from the President of the United States. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Who is your pick with the Indiana Hoosiers taking on the Miami Hurricanes come Monday night at Hard Rock in the free Sunshine State of Florida? Should be a great game as Indiana seeks to become the first 16-0 team in this modern college football era. Feedback at RSBN.tv. Share with us what you think about this, and make sure to trade and bet on Kalshi.com/RSBN. It's sports, music, culture, politics, and even more. Thank you to Kalshi. AngelPaste.com. Make sure you visit their great website and get the miracle that is the Vitamin B Miracle Cream. I use this on a daily basis. Also, their orange option, fantastic at this time of year, especially with that vitamin C and non-GMO, no chemicals to keep yourself healthy during cold and flu season. They also are a Christian-owned company. They hire veterans right off of the Gulf of America, Spring, Texas. That's where they're based. a great miracle that is angelpace.com. Thank you for partnering with us. And Tax Network USA, tnusa.com/RSBN. Settle those back taxes now. Protect yourself from the IRS. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-357-1415. 800-357-1415. Tax Network USA. Protect yourself from the IRS. And call today. If you can't call, visit tnusa.com/RSBN or that number there, 800-357-1415. Protect yourself from the IRS and those back taxes at Tax Network USA Incorporated. As we look forward to bringing you to the White House moments from now, and for a press briefing with Karoline Leavitt. We are going over the great health care plan, as President Trump puts it. To quote him, it's a great health care at a lower price. Mandates unprecedented accountability and transparency from insurance companies and all healthcare providers so that the special interests can no longer profiteer at your expense. As the saying goes, sunlight is the best disinfectant, and that's why my plan orders all of the insurance companies to publish the rates and coverage comparisons in very plain English. It requires insurers to publish detailed information about how much of your money they are going to be paying out in claims versus how much they are taking in profits. It forces them to release the detailed data on how you're not only being treated, but what exact costs are going to be there for your procedure, for the plan from the doctor, what's being denied, and whether those denials are eventually overturned on appeal. Now, most importantly, it will require any hospital or insurer who accepts Medicare or Medicaid to prominently post all prices of their place of business so that you are never surprised and you can easily shop for a better deal or better care. And you're going to end up doing both. You're going to get a better deal and better care, according to the President of the United States. He also continued, we will have maximum price transparency and costs will come down incredibly. I'm calling on Congress to pass this framework into law without delay. We have to do it right now so that we can get immediate relief to the American people, the people I love. So by implementing these measures of the great healthcare plan, this will deliver immediate relief to millions of Americans struggling with high healthcare costs due to the Democrats' Unaffordable Care Act. So for more information on this plan, greathealthcare.gov, greathealthcare.gov, and of course, to be live very soon, TrumpRx.com. Both of those sites you can visit. And now in the meantime, the administration has moved roughly $2 million or so outside of that mental health funding. Now, Democrats decrying that, but is it part of these shadow tactics that happen with big premium insurance plans and companies that have not served the American people? I think all of us can relate to that in one way or another, whether we've had health woes or a family member. Sometimes you look at these bills and it doesn't seem very transparent, especially after an ambulance ride or even stay at the hospital, with those costs that could be through the roof and in some cases make people either file for bankruptcy or really put them on the back burner of skyrocketing bills. And President Trump focused on bringing down those costs. It's not a right, left, or center issue. It's not a Republican or a Democrat issue, but it's common sense. And this president focused on that very large Make America Great Again, big tent approach to this, a populist movement focus on making America affordable again. And this president doing just that with a number of different items internationally as well. With cut number 5, Mr. Producer, just yesterday, President Trump having a morning phone call with the interim president of Venezuela. Of course, that is Delcy Rodriguez. And we are making tremendous progress as we help Venezuela stabilize and recover. Many topics discussed, including oil, minerals, trade, and of course, national security. This partnership between the United States of America and Venezuela will be a spectacular one for all. Venezuela will soon be great and prosperous again, perhaps more so than ever before. So again, this was not an invasion and takeover of a country. This is not nation building. This is simply, as he has put it in playful terms, the Don Roe Doctrine, a reinstitution of President James Monroe. And during his tenure in office, the Monroe Doctrine to protect America First policies of yesteryear and the European aristocracies that were trying to infringe upon American interests directly in North America and South America. Now the maps flipped slightly, as we know that Venezuela really was in certain ways a puppet government for Russia and China and fueling literally their oil and gas standards. And not that that's completely cut off now, but there's no corruption that will end up hurting the United States. And with cries of celebration from Doral, Florida, just north of Miami, where 8 million refugees and Venezuelan Americans call Florida home, they were celebrating in the streets all the way down to Chile and even in Madrid, Spain, of those Venezuelans who have fled their nation. Celebrations happening. Let me tell you, if you can go to a Venezuelan establishment, not only is the food amazing, the culture very warm, and I enjoyed that in Atlanta as well during soccer matches, as they call it, football, and always an entertaining time because everyone is standing and celebrating literally the entire game, and it's wonderful to see freedom potentially being brought back to such an extraordinary culture of people. Thank you to All Family Pharmacy and the exclusive interview we had with Michael Kunzler in the last hour. allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. This is their new code, RSBN30. That's RSBN30. 30% off these biohacking products. And the Morellins, Seromorelin to NAD+, the methylene blue, as well as glutathione that will get you all healthy and ready to go and use what your body produces naturally. It was a great conversation to have with Michael Kunzler, and I learned a lot in that as I was roughly unfamiliar with it. So it's great to have interviews where you can learn about these amazing biohacking products as we are living in this golden era. So thank you to All Family Pharmacy. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking, code RSBN30. Scan that QR code there, 30% off these biohacking products. Also, mypillow.com/RSBN. Our dear friend Mike Lindell, running for governor of Minnesota. Use promo code RSBN to visit mypillow.com/RSBN. And there you will find over 2,000 products like the My Slippers, the My Coffee, also those My Sheets, the Giza Dream Sheets to My Pillows 1.0, 2.0, even themed pillows to remind us of the glory of God, the gift of this nation. In God we trust, our national motto, with the Lady Liberty in the New York Harbor with the backdrop of the American flag. Always good to rest your head under the privilege of our American freedoms, and no one knows it better than Mr. Mike Lindell, a dear friend of the network. mypillow.com/RSBN. Save with code RSBN as he's continuing the Christmas sale. Save up to 80%, 80, on amazing products, over 2,000 there at mypillow.com/RSBN. If you like what you see with your go-to live desk, also your Rally Network, feel free to donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate, or text RSBN to 801-801. Feel free to support us here on the right side of history, rsbnetwork.com/donate, text RSBN to 801-801. We also have an address for check or money order, and that is 1550 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Once again, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting us here on the right side of history. And I'm excited about those videos from 2024 because it might look just the same out there in 2026. In the meantime, as we approach these midterms, get All America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. There you can like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss a minute of the action when it comes to the America First agenda, and unbridled access to your 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, the 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress, and press briefings like we're about to see in Washington, D.C. Again, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter, and that is a live look from the federal city from the Washington Monument, looking out onto the mall on a wintry January Thursday, but the sun shining gloriously in the city that honors George Washington, the father of our nation, and the only president to have not lived at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as the White House under construction until that during that presidency. And with New York and Philadelphia being our first capitals, Washington, D.C. really becoming a great thing to celebrate the father of our nation. But did you know this? The White House was not coined the White House until the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th president of the United States. I wasn't too sure on that until recently. I was reading some things about Teddy, and that's his term that we kept using. It was just known as the presidential mansion or the executive mansion prior to that. So I thought that was an interesting thing to look back into history, and when we get our terms and the nicknames, if you will, and one that has stood now the test of time since his presidency of 1901 to 1909 at the turn of the century. Theodore Roosevelt, one of our finest presidents and a true populist. I think it's unfair to call him progressive in the sense because the modern term progressive is not what it was when he instituted a bull moose party and a third party movement to fight for the people in 1912 when he attempted to make his comeback. But President Trump, in many ways, I would call a modern Teddy Roosevelt, someone who has fought for the people, someone who could be in the biggest galas and the black tie affairs, but would rather be with the real people out in America. And moments from now, we will have Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing. So it looks as if, let's go there right now to the White House.
Room today. Thank you all for coming. President Trump is making America affordable again through his proven economic formula of powerful tariffs, fair trade deals, massive middle-class tax cuts, energy dominance, and aggressive deregulation. The overwhelmingly positive economic data released this week underscores the significant progress the president has already delivered. Tuesday's CPI report marked the latest confirmation that President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis. Since President Trump took office, core CPI has increased at just a 2.4% annualized rate, substantially lower than the 3.3% annual rate inherited from the Biden administration last January. Importantly, as inflation cools, Americans' wages are rising, giving the American people more purchasing power. And with what is likely going to be a record-breaking tax refund season in the next couple of weeks, the American people will be reaping the rewards of the massive tax cuts that were signed into law by the president. Thanks to President Trump's signing of no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, boosting the child tax credit, and locking in the 2017 Trump tax cuts, independent estimates project the average American tax filer could expect up to an extra $1,000 bump to their tax refund next year. This is going to be a helpful boost to working families who are making ends meet. On the energy front, the national average price for a gallon of regular gas this week fell to its lowest level in 5 years, thanks to President Trump's drill baby drill agenda. According to Gas Buddy, the average price for regular gas on Monday was below $3 per gallon in 43 states, below $2.75 per gallon in 30 states, and at or below $2.50 per gallon in 17 states. In fact, gas prices were below $2 a gallon at stations in at least 19 states. Don't forget, this was unheard of just a couple of short years ago. Overall, drivers are projected to spend $11 billion less at the gas pump this year than they did last year, resulting in hundreds of dollars in critical savings for the average American family. We're also seeing the housing market rebound as borrowing costs ease and income growth outpaces home price gains. According to a new report, also released this week from the National Association of Realtors, existing home sales in December rose to their fastest pace in 3 years. To further improve housing affordability, President Trump has recently announced and directed Fannie and Freddie to purchase $200 billion worth of mortgage bonds. As a result of these actions, mortgage rates have fallen to their lowest level in years. As of last Friday, rates for the average 30-year mortgage are down more than 1 full percentage point. Because of these significant declines, monthly housing payments are now at their lowest level in 2 years, and we expect this decrease to continue. As someone who was enormously successful in real estate, President Trump understands that owning a home is about more than just having a physical asset. It's about empowering young people to stake their claim in the American dream. It's about giving newlyweds a place to make their own and start a family. It's about promoting the spirit of hard work, determination, and yes, the rugged individualism that has made America the greatest country in the history of the world. President Trump knows America is strongest when it's a nation of owners, not renters, and he is determined to unlock that opportunity for as many Americans as possible. That's why he will outline additional housing initiatives during his major speech in Davos next week, and we look forward to seeing many of you there. Finally, this morning, President Trump unveiled a health care plan for America called the Great Health Care Plan, and a video message detailing his solutions to lower costs for all Americans and significantly improve our health care system. The Great Health Care Plan will accomplish this through 4 common sense pillars. Number 1, permanently lowering prescription drug prices. Congress can get this done by codifying President Trump's historic Most Favored Nation initiatives into law to guarantee Americans the same low prices for prescription drugs that people in other countries around the world pay. Additionally, by increasing consumer choice by making more verified, safe pharmaceutical drugs available for over-the-counter purchases. Number 2, the Great Healthcare Plan will stop sending big insurance companies billions in extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice. Additionally, by funding a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans and ending kickbacks from pharmacy benefit managers to large brokerage middlemen. Number 3, the Great Healthcare Plan will maximize price transparency by requiring any healthcare provider or insurer who accepts either Medicare or Medicaid to publicly and prominently post their pricing and fees to avoid surprise medical bills. This is an incredibly popular policy that has been bipartisan for many years, and President Trump is officially and firmly calling on Congress to get it done. And number 4, holds big insurance companies accountable by requiring them to publish rate and coverage comparisons up front on their websites in plain English so consumers and everyday Americans can make the best purchasing decisions for them and their families. These are common sense actions that make up President Trump's Great Healthcare Plan, and they represent the most comprehensive and bold agenda to lower healthcare costs to have ever been considered by the federal government. Congress should immediately take up President Trump's plan and pass it into law. For Americans watching at home, you can visit greathealthcare.gov right now for more information on the Great Healthcare Plan. And with that, we will open it up to questions. In our new media seat today, we have a familiar face, Riley Gaines. I'm surprised it took us a year to get you here, but I'm very happy to see you. I know you have a new podcast, The Riley Gaines Show. And so thank you. And you brought a beautiful baby and your lovely husband, too. So thank you so much for joining. And why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. First and foremost, congratulations to you. Being a girl mom will change your life in the best way possible. So excited you get to shop all the pink and the frilly and the bows. I was in Washington, D.C. earlier this week for the Supreme Court case. There were two arguments that were heard surrounding sex-based rights and if it's constitutional for states to pass laws that ultimately protect those rights for women. If the Supreme Court rules as anticipated in favor of maintaining these sex-based rights, is the administration prepared to take action against the states? I believe at this point it's 23 states that don't have those protections for women?
Absolutely. And as you know, Riley, the administration already has done so. We've taken action in a number of fronts against these states who are failing to uphold the president's executive orders in this administration's policy of simply protecting women in women's sports and in women's private spaces. We've gone to the mat with large universities in this country as well to try to fight for what's fair and what's just for women and girls across the country. So I know you were at the arguments. I listened to them myself as a woman and as a former athlete, and I think the president speaks on common sense on this issue, that women's sports and private spaces should be protected, and that there are two genders, there are two sexes. That is not something we should be afraid to say in this country. And I think, frankly, it was quite alarming to not only hear a couple of justices gravel over that basic fundamental biological fact that men and women are different but inherently equal, but we are certainly different and women deserve such rights. We hope and expect that the Supreme Court will rule in the right way on this matter. Thank you. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you very much. A lot to talk about.
Sure.
Isn't
there always a lot to talk about?
What can you share about the president's meeting with Maria Corina Machado? Is it underway? What can you share about that? And then also, the president said yesterday that Delcy Rodriguez was, quote, a terrific person. Does the president trust the remaining members of the Maduro regime?
I will say, to your first question, the meeting was about to begin as I was stepping out of the Oval Office moments ago, so my understanding is that it's underway right now. I know the president was looking forward to this meeting, and he's was expecting it to be a good and positive discussion with Ms. Machado, who is really a remarkable and brave voice for many of the people of Venezuela. So the president looks forward to obviously talking to her about the realities on the ground in the country and what is taking place. As for Ms. Rodriguez, the president did speak with her directly this week. As you know, he revealed that to all of you yesterday. And Secretary Rubio and the administration have been in constant communication with Ms. Rodriguez and other members of the interim government in Venezuela. They have been extremely cooperative. They have thus far met all of the demands and requests of the United States and of the president. And I think you have all seen that play out. We obviously had a $500 million energy deal that was struck in large part because of the cooperation from Ms. Rodriguez. Venezuela and Ms. Rodriguez have also confirmed that they will be releasing political prisoners from Venezuela. There were 5 Americans who were recently released this week as well. So the president likes what he's seeing and will expect that cooperation to continue.
And regarding the investigation into the leak that the president referenced yesterday, what is the administration's position on the Washington Post reporter? The Post has reported that she was told that she is not a target of the investigation. Does the administration believe she did anything wrong? And then also, what is the administration's position on the Pentagon Papers case from the 1970s that affirmed reporters' right to publish classified information under certain circumstances?
Well, since this is an active investigation, I don't want to comment on it much more than what we did yesterday to obviously confirm the investigation, and I can confirm what the Attorney General stated, and the President as well, which is that the individual, unfortunately a contractor at the Pentagon, chose to unlawfully leak classified and very serious information to this Washington Post reporter, hence why the reporter's home was looked into by the FBI, rightfully so. And the administration is not going to tolerate leaks, especially from within the national security apparatus of the United States government, that put our nation's integrity and our national security at risk. Full stop. The president will not support that. I know the Secretary of War will not support that, and it will not stand. And legal action will be taken against anyone, whether it's a member of the press or whether it's an employee for a federal agency who breaks the law. If you break the law and if you endanger our men and women in uniform, you are going to be held accountable, period, full stop.
But does this administration believe that this reporter or any reporter has a right to publish classified information under certain circumstances?
Look, I think that we do not believe that individuals who have been given the privilege of holding a top secret clearance should be illegally leaking that classified information, and I know the American people agree with that. And I think it's a basic tenet of journalistic integrity not to publish information that could directly endanger the operational security or the brave men and women who are serving this country in uniform and putting themselves in harm's way to protect not just the people of this administration, but all of you in the press and all of their fellow Americans as well. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. I wanted to get the White House reaction to Iranian state TV broadcasting an implicit threat to the president's life. It was images of the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, according to reports, with the message, "This time it will not go wrong."
I have not seen that, to be honest with you, Jackie. We'll take a look, and I'll let the president and his national security team examine that footage to ensure its legitimacy. Again, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. What I will say with respect to Iran is that the president and his team have communicated to the Iranian regime that if the killing continues, there will be grave consequences. And the president received a message, as he revealed to all of you and the whole world yesterday, that the killing and the executions will stop. And the president understands today that 800 executions that were scheduled and supposed to take place yesterday were halted. And so the president and his team are closely monitoring this situation, and all options remain on the table for the president.
Netanyahu encouraged him against strikes.
Look, it's true that the president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but I would never details about their conversation without giving the expressed approval by the president himself. Ouija.
Thank you, Caroline. Is it still the president's assessment that it would be very hard for Ms. Machado to leave Venezuela because he says she lacks the respect and support in that country? And will he raise that with her today?
I think the president's assessment that you just pointed out was based on realities on the ground. It was a realistic assessment based on what the president was reading and hearing from his advisors and national security team. And at this moment in time, his opinion on that matter has not changed.
He has also said that he would like there to be elections in Venezuela when the time is right.
That's right.
Do you have any update on when that might be, and is he committed to a transition to democracy for Venezuela?
Yes, and he is also committed to hopefully seeing elections in Venezuela one day, but I don't have an updated timetable for you today. Reagan in the back.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a question for you on Minnesota and then also Venezuela.
Sure.
President Trump threatened invoking the Insurrection Act today in a Truth Social post. I'm wondering what his tipping point is. Like, what would it take for him to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Look, that's only a question, frankly, Reagan, the president can answer. But the Insurrection Act is a tool at the president's disposal. As you know, it has been used sparingly, but it has been used by previous presidents in American history. And I think the president's Truth Social post spoke very loud and clear to Democrats across this country, elected officials who are using their platforms to encourage violence against federal law enforcement officers, who are encouraging left-wing agitators to unlawfully obstruct legitimate law enforcement operations. And if you talk to any law enforcement officer, no matter what level they work at, they want to be working with their counterparts, whether that's at the federal level or the federal authorities wanting to work with their counterparts at the state and local level. And it's truly shameful that now for more than a year, you've had elected Democrat governors and mayors who have basically held their state and local law enforcement hostage and told them, you cannot cooperate with federal law enforcement. Why? They cooperated under the Biden administration. It's because these Democrats are deranged in their hatred for President Trump, and they are holding their state and local law enforcement hostage as a result. And these Democrat mayors and governors are doing this over what? Over the lawful and legitimate law enforcement operations to remove violent criminals from the streets of Minnesota, from the streets of California, from the streets of New York, and from the streets of every state across this country. And you don't see these riots and this vandalism taking place in states like Florida. Why? Because you have a governor in that state who has empowered federal and local authorities to work together. And it's despicable what we're seeing from these Democrat politicians, especially in sanctuary states and cities across the country.
Yesterday, Caroline.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you so much. My question is, President Trump has talked twice in recent days, once at the Kennedy Center and then to Reuters again last night about canceling the election. Why is he talking about this?
I believe you're referring to the president's interview at Reuters last night. I was in that interview. It was a closed-door interview. Obviously, there was not audio or video. The president was simply joking. He was saying, we're doing such a great job. We're doing everything the American people thought. Maybe we should just keep rolling. But he was speaking facetiously.
And then one more.
Sure.
On the labor secretary. She's under investigation. Has he spoken to her about this?
I don't know if the president has spoken directly to the secretary. If they have, I'm unfamiliar with that conversation. But I have spoken to the president about that report regarding the secretary. He's aware of the internal investigation and he stands by the secretary, and he thinks that she's doing a tremendous job at the Department of Labor on behalf of American workers. PBS, go ahead.
You were mentioning a moment ago about working federal, state, local officials in Minneapolis. Governor Walz's office is saying today that he's trying to get a hold directly with the president. Have they spoken? And if they haven't, why haven't they spoken if there's a desire from Walz, as they're saying, to de-escalate what's happening there?
I'm not sure if that's a genuine offer to speak with the president. I was with the president about 30 minutes ago and they hadn't spoken at that point. Look, the president is always willing to answer the phone when people pick up and call. When there was another tragic shooting many months ago in Governor Walz's state, he spoke directly with the governor. But I would ask that the governor stops inciting the harassment and illegal obstruction of law enforcement in his state. All ICE and federal law enforcement are trying to do are remove people like this off of the streets of Governor Walz's city in Minneapolis and of his state in Minnesota. If you look at some of the individuals in this photo, these are all illegal alien criminals who came into our country under the previous administration. This is some of the most disturbing crimes you will ever read about, and there's only a few reporters in this room who will actually talk about these individuals. This is all ICE is trying to do. They are trying to remove people like this from Governor Walz's state. And so yes, he should pick up the phone and he should say that he will cooperate with this president and with the federal government in making Minnesota safer, because that's all President Trump and his administration want to do. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. The president says he wants money to go directly to Americans so they can buy their own insurance. How exactly would this work? And can the president assure Americans that this will be enough to cover their health care costs?
So this is the second principle in the president's health care plan, lowering insurance premiums specifically and ensuring that that money is going directly back to the American people and cutting the kickbacks that then raise those premiums. So this plan, once put into legislative text and passed by Congress and sent to the president's desk, will stop sending big insurance companies billions of an extra taxpayer-funded subsidy payments and instead send that money directly to eligible Americans to allow them to buy the health insurance of their choice through, you may have heard it be referred to as health savings accounts. Whether that ends up being the actual name of such accounts, we'll have to see. Again, Congress and the White House are going to work together to put this plan into action. And then secondly, the Great Healthcare Plan will fund a cost-sharing reduction program for healthcare plans, which will save taxpayers at least $36 billion and reduce the most common Obamacare plan premiums by over 10%, and that's according to the Congressional Budget Office.
But 20 million Americans in recent weeks have seen their health care costs soar. Can he assure them that if this plan is put in place, that they will be able to cover those costs?
If this plan is put in place, every single American who has health care in the United States will see lower costs as a result. They will see more transparency. All of these proposals that are within the Great Healthcare Plan are incredibly popular with the American people, and they will impact everyone, not just a small fraction of those who are within the healthcare marketplace, but every single American will continue to see their costs go down. And I will note that they already are with respect to prescription drug prices. When you look at what the president has done with most favored nations, you've seen these big pharmaceutical companies in the Oval Office saying that this president and his team were nonstop, around the clock, pressuring us and negotiating with us to lower the cost of prescription drugs for Americans. And we are already seeing that to the tune, in some cases, of more than 500%. And that Trump RX website is something that the administration will be formally launching very soon, so Americans will have access to those lower costs of drugs. Josh.
Thank you. The president has called on credit card companies to lower the cap rate to 10% effective the 20th next week. If they don't do that, what's his? What will he do? What's the threat?
Well, tariffs? No, I'm just kidding. The president certainly has an expectation, Josh, that the credit card companies will do this, just as he did with the pharmaceutical companies, that they will lower costs for American consumers. I don't have a specific consequence to outline for you, but certainly this is an expectation and, frankly, a demand that the president has made.
And can you give us an update on the Fed? Sorry. There was some reporting from, I think, Fox Business that Rick Reeder had an interview this week scheduled. The president's indicated he's already made a selection, or at least he's settling on someone. Where is he in that process, and when can we expect an announcement? Is he still doing interviews?
Look, the president is in the same place as you all have been asking about this for many, many weeks. He's in a decision-making phase. There are a few people who he likes very much for this job, maybe less than that. The truth is, like with all decisions, it's a decision for the president to make. And he said to Reuters in that interview last night that he thinks he'll be finally making that decision in the next couple of weeks. So we will see.
And very quickly, there's been some criticism from other governments about Grok and XAI, the Twitter AI bot, and things it's been doing to manipulate images, including whether that would violate the Take It Down Act that the First Lady has supported. We've not heard from this administration on it. Elon Musk says that they've disabled that, but I wanted to ask you whether the administration has a position and whether that's something that you will be pursuing, or whether the president has talked to Mr. Musk about that.
Yes, I will talk to the Office of Science and Technology, and we will get you a firm statement and answer on exactly where the administration stands. I don't want to speak on that without speaking with the experts on it. Yes.
Just to follow up on the health care plan, one of the things in the Affordable Care Act was coverage of pre-existing conditions. Is there any discussion or inclusion on that issue in the president's plan?
The president's plan that he outlined today will have no impact on individuals in this country with pre-existing conditions. Obviously, that's a continued conversation that the White House will have with Congress, but that's not the president's intention with the great health care plan. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions on Minneapolis.
And then you. Go ahead.
Thanks. Two questions on Minneapolis, one on the ICE agent and the other on the rioting. I believe last night there were protesters or rioters that rifled through an FBI car, took weapons. We had a reporter embedded with ICE who said that she saw constant harassment all evening. Can you speak to the rhetoric we're hearing from Democrat politicians, whether they are causing violence against ICE, as well as some of the headlines we've seen, not including the full story?
Yeah, I mean, to your first point, I think I've addressed that these Democrat governors and mayors in not just Minnesota, but in states across the country are essentially, they've referred to ICE agents who, again, are brave men and women. And I would encourage everyone in this room, and I would encourage Governor Walz and other Democrats who are demeaning law enforcement to sit down and have a cup of coffee with an ICE agent or a Border Patrol agent. These are great, patriotic men and women who have families, who put on the uniform every day and are following our nation's immigration laws at the direction of their bosses and again, at the direction of the law. They are simply trying to enforce the law. And the Democrat Party has demeaned these individuals. They've even referred to them as Nazis and as the Gestapo. And that is absolutely leading to the violence we're seeing in the streets. If you look at some of the images out of Minneapolis last night, look at this vehicle. Look at what it says. It says F ICE. You have these individuals who are putting their middle finger, proudly so, at the camera. Another ICE individual, a vehicle that was vandalized last night by these left-wing agitators. People don't do this without encouragement from people in power who make them feel like it's okay. Here's another one. And I'm pretty sure this car, you can't see it, said the best agent is a dead agent or something to that effect. This is despicable rhetoric that we're seeing, and the media is absolutely complicit in this violence, because if you look at the headline from CNN, protests erupt after federal agent shoots man in Minneapolis, that is not the story, that is not the truth. If you actually want to know the truth, you can look at what the Department of Homeland Security released, which is that this ICE agent was executing a targeted operation against a Venezuelan illegal alien who was unlawfully present in the country. And when this ICE agent tried to detain the individual, 3 more of his comrades came rushing out of a house and started ambushing and attacking the ICE agent. They used a shovel or a broom to smash his face in. And so yes, that agent had to use self-defense and take up his weapon to protect his own life. That is what's happening on the streets of Minneapolis. That's what's happening on the streets, unfortunately, of these Democrat-run cities and states where you have elected officials who are encouraging such violence against our brave men and women in law enforcement.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. First, a follow-up on one of my colleagues who asked you about the president's interview with Reuters. You said that he was joking about canceling the elections, but Americans for generations have fought and died for democracy, for this democracy. Are you saying that the president finds the idea of canceling elections funny?
Andrew, were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room. I heard the conversation, and only someone like you would take that so seriously and pose it as a question in that way.
Second,
Caroline,
Thank you, Caroline. Senator Elizabeth Warren said that the president called her earlier this week to discuss caps on credit card interest rates. I'm curious, would the president work with her and other Democrats in Congress on a legislative fix to this issue?
I think the president would work in good faith with anyone in Congress for a good legislative fix that would benefit the American people. And that's precisely why he called Senator Warren earlier this week on that matter.
Thanks, Caroline. Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally, and earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media, and she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE, and Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist. Kelly.
Two quick questions on Iran. I wanted to ask first, just if you can say, how close was the president to potentially launching strikes last night, and was it the Gulf states that convinced him not to do that, as some in the region there have said?
Well, look, Kelly, I know there's been a lot of speculation in the media about what the president is going to do at any given moment or any given night. And I would say a lot of these stories, to be honest with you, I've been reading them, and they have been based on anonymous sources who are pretending or guessing to know the president's thinking. The truth is, only President Trump knows what he's going to do, and a very, very small team of advisors are read into his thinking on that. And as I just told you, he continues to closely monitor the situation on the ground in Iran. And as we saw yesterday, he had heard that the killings and executions would stop, and we have seen 800 people, their lives have been spared as a result of that. The president continues to closely monitor, but also keep all of his options on the table.
Caroline, two separate questions.
Sure.
On the Machado meeting first, what is it that the president feels that he needs to hear from her or from the opposition party that he hadn't heard prior to today, or he wanted to hear in the meeting, to be able to convince him to commit to some sort of a timeline for elections?
I'm not sure the president is going into such the meeting with expectations like you just laid out, Fran. I don't think he needs to hear anything from Ms. Machado. I think generally this is a meeting that the president was willing to take and willing to accept, to meet Ms. Machado in person and to just have a frank and positive discussion about what's taking place in Venezuela. That's all.
And on the subject of Greenland, Jeff Landry, the president's special envoy for Greenland, wasn't in the White House meeting yesterday. Can you say why that was and what exactly the role he is playing in these conversations about acquiring Greenland?
Well, the Vice President and the Secretary of State were present for that meeting, and the meeting, it was a productive meeting. It was a good meeting, and in that meeting, the two sides agreed to really establish a working group of individuals who will continue to have technical talks on the acquisition of Greenland. Those talks will take place, I'm told, every 2 to 3 weeks, so this is a conversation the administration intends to keep having with the Danes and with the respected limited delegation from Greenland, but the president has made his priority quite clear. He wants the United States to acquire Greenland. He thinks it's in our best national security to do that.
There have been multiple instances of American citizens being detained by ICE, and I'm wondering what the administration is asking the agency to do. What steps is the administration asking the agency to take to ensure that Americans are not wrongly arrested?
Obviously, ICE is focused on detaining individuals who are unlawfully present in the country. And there have been hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens who have been arrested and detained and deported from this country by ICE over the course of the last year. And that's their intention, and that is their goal.
Elizabeth. Thank you, Karoline. What about on Greenland? You reportedly sent troops over there. Does that change at all what the president is doing on this? And then a second question. Yesterday, in a Senate help hearing, Senator Josh Hawley repeatedly asked a doctor if men can get pregnant, and she did not directly answer that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to your first question on Greenland, I don't think troops in Europe impact the president's decision-making process, nor does it impact his goal of the acquisition of Greenland at all. To your second question, I mean, anyone in their right mind with common sense who's speaking honestly and candidly will say that men cannot get pregnant. And I think I can attest to that myself. So thank you all very much.
And some extraordinary questions today by the superstar answering them. Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary there in the James S. Brady briefing room. And remarkable that one reporter, I do not know his name, I have not seen him there before, but to make the accusation that the ICE agent who sadly shot Miss Green did so intentionally. The framing of that question, to Karoline's point, showed his bias. That's why it's so important to have the new media not only in the James S. Brady briefing room, but right here at the anchor desk as well on Right Side Broadcasting Network, because he discharged his weapon because she made her car a violent attack vehicle and struck the agent. It's like looking outside. Is it raining outside, or is the sun shining? Is the grass green and the sky blue? But there are some who would claim otherwise, and journalistic integrity is of the utmost importance, especially now in 2026. Thank you to our sponsors, allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. It's a new website / you might be used to the allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, but now biohacking in its place, but code RSBN30 breaking during this broadcast for you on these biohacking products from NAD+ to methylene blue and many others, including the Morellin family that can do amazing things for you, make you feel younger, and use that natural things and components in our bodies to not only increase testosterone or even estrogen, but also to heal faster and fight back inflammation in the body. Really amazing stuff. And go back and watch Michael Kunzler, the amazing co-owner of All Family Pharmacy, joining us for an exclusive interview earlier on all of these details with biohacking. allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking, code RSBN30. Scan that QR code now. And I'd like to also thank our dear friends at Monetary Gold for wealth and security preservation. Grab that complimentary presidential gold guide today. Call today. Do not delay. 888-617-7994. RSBN4thegold.com. Be sure to ask about eliminating the annual IRA fees permanently for life. And our friends out there, Scott Cheney, the senior trade executive and portfolio manager, will do an amazing job to walk you all through that. And they have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. 26 years in business, and it matters, not just the tangible gold and silver to hold in your hands, but the company matters as well and who you go with. And this is the best out there, folks, because they don't do the special coins, the gimmicks, and all of that nonsense. They get right down to where bullion is leading and how gold and silver on that market scale growing in size for our economy. So something very important to look into. if you're looking to diversify your savings in 2026. RSBN4thegold.com. It is monetary gold. Again, call today. Do not delay. 888-617-7994. As we close out this broadcast, looking across the channels and on social media, and people like Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois continuing to demonize ICE agents, saying that Donald Trump and Kristi Noem are using armed, militarized agents to provoke Minnesotans, and speaking out against the potential use of the Insurrection Act. It's amazing to think that we have a major party in this country so committed to upending the rule of law and peace and justice and liberty for the American people. I mean, it's amazing how they've polarized this, and our thoughts and prayers are with every uniformed agent from the bottom of our hearts here at RSBN. We thank all of you for the tireless and thankless at times service that you give to this country, and I know that you're under a lot of stress right now, so our thoughts and prayers are with you. If you see a police officer, if you see anyone in a uniform, just stop and say thank you. Maybe even just grab them a coffee or something, just as a way of letting them know that they're appreciated, because they have to go to sleep at night seeing some of the worst that humanity has to offer. And it does not help to have prominent Democrat politicians out there decrying them. If you don't like a law, if you don't like a role that's happening in society, don't attack the police officer. Go and run for office yourself, or support a lunatic left candidate. But otherwise, let them do their job, please. In the meantime, as well, on a lighter note, First Lady Melania Trump to address an AI literacy Zoom, and this should be taking place tomorrow, Friday, January 16th at the high noon hour on the East Coast. So that'll be 9 o'clock a.m. on the West Coast. As we close out this broadcast, be sure to come back for the afternoon, starting at 3:30 Eastern for a 4 o'clock event. Likely in the East Room, but at the White House, President Trump hosting once again the Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions on the ice. So we'll have afternoon coverage, and Matthew Alvarez in for that. But thank you for tuning in today as Karoline Leavitt holding yet another press briefing, and the great Riley Gaines there in the influencer seat in this golden era of America. We hope you have a wonderful Thursday, January 15th. For all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. Always a joy to be with you. May God bless you and yours, and we will see you again this afternoon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.